So there's a lot of talk of a potential war, civil war in the United States. First, you have to understand what that is. You can't have such a conflict without some kind of state apparatus. You have separate state apparatus that are physically at arms with each other, against each other, and you also need a separate economy. So, most of these cases where you get groups of people, that are really opposed, like Antifa, or you have the militia movement or something like that, those groups would not start a civil war. They can start a lot of chaos, they can start a rebellion, but not a civil war because they don't have a state apparatus, they don't have a separate and independent economy. For something like that to happen, there's only a couple of things I can think of. One thing that could happen is you would have something politically happen in some of these states like California or Illinois, where they do something like they legislate their election laws to kick Trump off the ballot, which, by the way, is different than having a judge in those states do it, because basically the cases that the judges are making, the prosecutors are making, are frivolous, and you can't kick Trump off the ballot. You can't deprive him of rights without due process. So that's what they're attempting to do, but that's another issue there. What these states can do is they can legislate their election laws in such a way that Trump would not be allowed on the ballot. And they can do that because election laws are legislated and enforced on the state level. Now, something like that would come out of the city. So let's say in Illinois, the politics in Chicago, being very left-leaning, could do something like that. And if they do, they would anger the rest of the state because geographically, most of the counties in Illinois in the last 2016, 2020 voted for Trump. So you can have a situation like you do in Oregon where you have a bunch of counties trying to secede from the state and trying to join another state. If we get this nationwide in Colorado, California, Virginia, et cetera, where the blue counties and the red counties try to separate that way, you could have a situation where the respective blue versus red counties attempt to set up their own governments. And under that circumstance, a civil war could be possible because now you have different governments, distinctly different governments. And the economies, the red states would have their own economy. It would be agrarian and manufacturing based, and the cities would be, I guess, service economy. Under that circumstance, I don't think it would last very long because the cities depend on the produce of the rural areas. Unless, say in the case of California or in Portland, Oregon, or Seattle, where they're on the coast and they can import their food. Now, that might be a different situation there. Or you can have other countries step in, like, say, China, supporting the West Coast, the blue counties on the West Coast, and European countries from the EU attempting to support the blue counties on the East Coast. Something like that could happen, too. And Chicago, keep in mind, does have ocean access because the St. Lawrence River is navigatable. So places like Milwaukee, Chicago, Buffalo, New York could actually be supported by Canada. They could be supported by Europe. Something like that could actually happen because, like I said, separate governments, separate economies. Of course, like any civil war scenario, it would be disastrous, but something like that could shape up. Another thing that could happen is that you could have a state by itself secede. Let's say California secedes because Trump gets reelected and there's a huge push in California for this to happen. I think this is less likely to happen. But if California secedes, states like Colorado might try to secede. You might have rebellions in the cities. Something like that could happen. I don't think it would go very well. Because, again, the counties would secede from the cities if something like that were to happen. either officially or unofficially, because you might have the official military march in, but that would be an absolute mess, because there wouldn't be clear lines being drawn in that case, and that would be even more disastrous. Otherwise, if you have a lot of chaos as a result of the election, it would be just that. It would be chaos. It would be riots in the cities if Trump got elected. There'd be a lot of talk of conservatives trying to do their thing on the local level. So something like that could happen, but a scenario like that would not, at least not immediately, devolve into a civil war. So these are just speculations of what could happen under that scenario. So that's my 2 cents.